Is microdosing psilocybin safe? This is one of the questions that I get asked a lot. Welcome to this video where I'm going to give you the answer to that question as well as address a few of the other questions that come up the most. Now, I've kind of gone over this information before, but I'm going to go over it again just very briefly. There have been a lot more studies done on taking larger doses of psilocybin. There haven't been a lot of studies done on the effects and safety of microdosing. However, psilocybin has a history of safe use. So right now, all of the research is pointing towards it being safe to use in microdoses as well. And in my own experience, I feel that it has been safe. I've approached it mindfully. I've taken all sorts of safety precautions before I started microdosing, and I haven't had any adverse effects. I haven't had any side effects. The only effects I've had from microdosing psilocybin have been all good. But I don't want you to base your decision on my experience with it. It's very important to take all of the information and look at all of it when you're looking at making that decision for yourself. Another thing to address when we're wondering if psilocybin is safe to microdose is that addiction piece. We've gone over this before because history has told us that psychedelics are dangerous and addictive, but we know now that psilocybin is not addictive. We can build up a tolerance to it. That's why we take a tolerance break. But as far as addiction to it goes, that won't happen. You will not become addicted to psilocybin. And if you decide you want to stop taking it, you're not going to have any nasty withdrawal symptoms or any of those side effects that happen when people stop taking medication. It's just kind of, you stop taking it and it's done. And once you're on a tolerance break, you will realize that there is no danger when you stop taking it. The other thing I get asked and people wonder a lot about is that when you're on a tolerance break, do the effects of the psilocybin stop? In my experience, it all depends on the length of the tolerance break that I've been on. So for me, and I'm basing this all on me because there isn't a lot of research done on it. So when I take a break, I've experimented because I use the Stamets stack. So I've done 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Now on the 2-week break, nothing changes. I still feel just the same way I did while I was microdosing. On a 3-week break, that's what I'm currently doing now. By the end of that 3 weeks, some of those symptoms I start feeling a little bit, and I don't even know how to describe it. You have to keep in mind that for PTSD, the kind I have, complex PTSD, those symptoms, they're never going to vanish completely. As much as we want them to, it's just not. It's all about learning to manage them in a way that helps us live a healthier lifestyle. Psilocybin has helped me immensely in managing all those symptoms. And well, I can't wait to share all of the information in the next video with you about the benefits that I've received. But as far as the breaks go, when I have tried a 4-week break, well, that feels like it's maybe a little bit too long because on 4-week break, I noticed a little bit more anxiety, mild symptoms like that. Nothing crazy. It's not like everything comes back full blown. That's not what happens. I haven't tried a 4-week break in a while, and I think I'm going to try that again because I've noticed a lot more improvements over the last few months. So now I kind of want to experiment and try that 4-week break. Just kind of push the limits and see what happens. I just want to add, I think if I was to stop microdosing today, I don't think I would lose any of the progress that I've already made or any of the benefits that psilocybin has given me. Some of my anxiety might come back or some of my symptoms might intensify a little bit if I was to stop microdosing, but I can't see how it would ever take away any of the progress I've already made or the benefits that it's already given me. I just wanted to add that because I think that sometimes people worry if they stop taking something that it's going to undo everything that it's already done. And I just don't see how that's possible. And you're going to kind of understand that a little bit more when I talk about my journey with psilocybin and all the benefits that it's already given me. And I'm going to talk about that in an upcoming video very soon. The other question that I get asked the most is about the dose. People want to know how they know when they're taking the right dose for them. This kind of goes back to a previous video when I talked about preparing and the importance of journaling. Keeping track of your moods and your feelings in that journal is what's going to help you determine if you're taking the right dose. It's just one of the things that's going to help. And it's important to write it down and keep track of it, because we always think that we're going to remember how we felt 2 weeks ago. But a lot of times when it gets to that point, it's like, I don't remember. So that's why they suggest journaling it. So yeah, journaling a couple weeks before you start, and keep journaling once you start until you find that right dose. So writing it down is going to help when, let's say you take your dose today and you don't notice any changes at all. Just write that down, no change. The next day, or the next time that you microdose, if you don't notice a change again, then you might want to up the dose a little bit. But I wouldn't suggest from the very first dose, if you don't notice anything, I don't suggest upping it right away. I suggest waiting at least for a couple of doses before upping that dose. I'm only recommending that as a safety precaution. And also, talking about safety precautions, the day you take your very first dose, if you don't notice anything and a couple of hours goes by, please don't take another one. A lot of people do things like that, and we've all heard stories about people taking edibles, gummies, cannabis gummies, those kind of things, and they take one and they don't feel anything, so they take another one and then they can't get up. So don't do that. It takes a while sometimes for it to digest, for it to get into your system. So you don't want to be jumping into another dose right away. Wait for a few days. And then if you don't notice any difference, up your dose a little bit. Sometimes you might end up, when you up your dose, it might end up being too much. How will you know if it's too much? Well, you might feel more anxious. You might feel just off. You might feel slightly off. You have to listen. This is why I say you have to listen to your body, because your body is going to give you the indication whether or not you're taking too much. This is also the reason why I always recommend starting low and going up slowly. If 100 milligrams isn't working for you and you need to up your dose, don't jump to 200, because that might be too much. Like I've suggested previously, go up 50 milligrams at a time. And if you're a little apprehensive or uncomfortable about that, then just go up about 25 milligrams. And I always like to say it's better to be safe than sorry and start with lower and work your way up, rather than, well, 100 didn't work, I'm going to try 200. And the next thing you know, you're not having the best experience. And then it kind of turns you off of microdosing altogether. Also, another thing to keep in mind when we're talking about dose is that you might find the dose that works for you, and it will be working for you for a while. And then you might notice things aren't feeling the same anymore. And that simply means that you just need to adjust your dose again. There probably isn't going to be one perfect dose that you're going to find that's going to be perfect forever. It's one of those things. It's just like any other kind of medication where you need to adjust it from time to time, especially with something like psilocybin, where you can build up a tolerance. And that's why those breaks are extremely important. Like I mentioned before, we don't want to just keep going and going with our microdoses until we're no longer microdosing. That's when things can become dangerous. So also keep that in mind. All right, now that we've covered a few of the questions that come up the most, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next video where we're going to talk about the holistic approach to microdosing. I look forward to seeing you there.